The hell's going on, everybody? Man Cave Sports back here with the Skol Fockers as we are labeled here going forward to do a season recap of the Vikings 2024 season. A season in which we saw the team, let's be honest, outperform expectations. I think maybe not for the organization. They always have high expectations with the Wilfs, Quasi or Queasy, as Brian likes to refer to him as, and Coach KOC.
Or Queefy works.
Yes,
Queefy
yes,
works.
yes. But anyways, Vikings, great regular season, finished 14-3. Unfortunately, limped at the finish line with a loss to the Lions to get a wild card berth, and then subsequently played the LA Rams in Arizona and got their butts handed to them. But nonetheless, a interesting season to say the least from the purple. So we're going to give a season assessment, kind of go over what the highs, maybe some lows, and just look at what next season looks like. Which I'll be honest with you, I think going into the off season, they're in very good shape. But overall assessment of the season, like I said, they were 14-3, playoff berth. When we started this group, when we started doing podcasts, and I believe it was after week 2, they were already 2-0, and I pegged them. We talked about it early on in these shows. I had pegged them for 5, 6 wins. I think Steve, you had them at wild card contender. I think Brian, you were similar as
No,
well.
I was 11-6, sir.
Okay. All right. Yes. We probably have no record of that, but in your head, that's what you had them at.
That's all I can hold on to.
Well,
But
wait a minute. I think we do on our YouTube channel. If
we
somebody
we
wants to go back and
we might. I won't do that, but if you guys want to do it, knock yourselves out. But anyways, to me, it was a successful season. They overachieved, in my opinion. Granted, the ending sucked, but we're Vikings fans. We're used to it. Gary, what did you think about this past season?
Overall, I think it was a fun season. I mean, expectations, as we just said, were low. Came into it not thinking they were going to be middle of the road, even less than 500 at best. And to get what we got was fantastic. Kept us all involved. I will say, I even though those expectations started to change as the season went on, and it rose to that 14 wins. I loved the season overall. I thought we got a lot of good things out of it. I thought you've seen a lot of good things with free agency. Draft picks are still left to be desired. I'm having a problem with Quasi's draft stuff. You can tell it. Dallas, he still wasn't what we thought we were getting. Supposed to be the defensive player of the rookie player of the year. Not that. Verse from, I believe, from the Rams is going to be that, and he was picked after. So just kind of some of those things are still bothering me, but hit a dime on quarterback situation. Got lucky with that, I think, and I mean got lucky. I don't think that anyone could have said $10 million with Darnold was going to be anywhere close because in the preseason we're talking about how good McCarthy looks and he's got to start. So to get what we got out of Darnold was nothing but upside. So overall, love the season, had fun, but now the expectations are rose for next year.
Absolutely. Steve.
yeah, we went 4-2 in the division. We swept the swept the Packers and the Bears. That's always good. We got swept by the Lions. And I think that as we look forward, we plus 100 on point differential. I think as we look forward here, we got to keep some of our core pieces, but the season was great. I mean, there's only one time, there really was only one time that I felt that we truly got beat. And I think that was the first Rams game. That was the only time that I looked at a game and thought that the other team just beat us. Even these last two losses that we had, Darnold, he dropped a big hot one right in the middle of the field, right? We should have beat the Lions that last game this season. We should have been up probably 21 or 24 points at halftime. We had 4 red zone trips, didn't get them. So, but you know what? 14-3, and Mike, this is a lot of fun. I mean, doing the show, hooting and hollering and getting crazy down in the man cave. I mean, that this is what you want, right? You want a season that you can have fun with, whether or not you get all the way to we'll make it one day, but considering the expectations we had, right? Yeah, considering the expectations we had, I was figuring like we could probably compete for a wild card. We did. We were competing for the division and the number 1 seed. So we outkicked our coverage. It was a great season. I think our defense was amazing. We got 2 guys that probably should have been all pros in Van Ginkel and Grenard. It was a great season. I'm not whining. And to be honest, these last 2 stinkers, they sucked when they were happening. But I think it really makes it clear, puts to bed the whole quarterback thing. It's JJ's time. So that having that certainty, that feels good. We don't have to worry about, drama and all this crazy crap. No, we know it's JJ's time. We got a good core group. We got to tweak some things in the off season, but yeah. Oh, geez, settle down there. It's a beard and he gets all squirrely on me.
Mr. Steve, you do kind of prattle on a little bit. But my thing about this thing, I thought that
review. Give me 2 minutes. Jeez.
Well, we got to move on. We got subject matter. I mean, it's plain and simple. I thought 11-6, just absolutely having B-Flow. By the way, the MVP of the NFL, B-Flow. And we're going to get him back, and it's beautiful. I hope that he keeps this lawsuit going against the NHL or NFL. It's going to be amazing. But this year was amazing. It was fun. Getting a $10 million quarterback off of Kyle Shanahan, running the same thing. It worked great. My big downfall was that during that Lions game, Aaron Glenn did secure himself a head coaching football job. He really did. I mean, he found it, and it's a copycat league, and I want to be positive because I am positive, be naughty. But next year is great. We have $70+ million in cap space, but we got to re-sign the Gank. We only got him for 1 more year for $10 million. We do have a 1st-round pick. We'll get a late 3rd-round pick for Kirko Chains, and then we have 2 5th-rounders. I'm hoping that we lock Queasy in his Posh and Tony corner bathroom at TCO, the complex there. It'd be really nice. There's nothing but good things. And as far as Mr. Sieb said about Sam, we need guards. We need interior linemen. It was just something that was just totally popped out, dude. That how to deal with this. So, hopefully we worked that out. And KOC did address that in his exit conversation. Michael.
Yeah, I think just to echo what a lot of you guys said, Sam Darnold's performance this year, granted, minus the last 2 games, was pretty incredible. I think the Jacksonville game as well. Yeah, he threw out a stinker, but
Tennessee.
Tennessee. If you would have told us before the season he would have performed at the level he did, we would have taken that. And quite frankly,
the 9th round in our fantasy football league, by the way.
Well, there you go. I don't want to talk about the fantasy football league.
I don't think you want
that shit. Anyways, but. You think of the alternative. We could have signed Kirko Chains for, I think he got 50, but we were probably willing to give him 40 million. Think of the trajectory of our season had Kirko been here, and I don't think he would have had the same success as Sam, to be honest with you.
And you wouldn't have had Van Ginkel either. You wouldn't have probably had Cashman, Grenard. The core of our defense. That wouldn't have been there.
No, and those off-season signings, especially on the defense. excellent, excellent. I mean, I didn't see that coming, and the defense
Ifo.
was outstanding. And to your point, Brian, we're seeing this now, and we'll get around to next season. But you see the hirings, you see the landscape, taking place right now in the NFL with the hirings. There's a high probability B-Flow will be back.
No,
And
he's back.
And if the Wilfs open up their checkbook, it's almost a certainty. If I am not mistaken, and I read this a couple hours ago, I heard KOC's getting 4 years at 15 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
When the coaches start making more than the players, get concerned. But hey,
Blank check for B-Flow.
yes. If they're willing to cut KOC a $15 million a year check, B-Flow's got to be worth at least $5 million, right?
And he's 39. He's only 39 years old, and he just signed a 4-year, $60 million deal. Can you believe that? What am I even doing with my life?
It's got to be rough to be KOC.
Yeah, but you just have a first-time ever head coach in Ben Johnson getting $13 million.
Yeah.
I mean, KOC's at least proven himself that he can win and take these guys, a mediocre team even, and turn that into winning seasons.
Oh, I want to see what losing all their coordinators does to the Lions, leaving Dan Campbell there to fend to himself.
KOC was playing chess. He was playing chess.
Yes.
KOC playing chess because now
I love it. I love it. All right. And amazingly, I have a couple of additional things to add to the end of this based on your guys' commentary. I love it. A lot of things to think about this season. We're not going to put a time cap on this one because it was a great season, had a great time. But now I'm going to go into your favorite moment. And I will start with mine just because one of you guys might steal it. And I don't need you to step on my touchdown call. But my favorite moment of this season was the win over the Packers and Sam Darnold in the locker room. We've seen stuff happen with Vikings quarterbacks over the years. We've had a carousel of them forever. I mean, we had a little stability with Kirko there. I'll say this, Josh Dobbs' 2-game stretch the prior season was great before, he became a pocket passer. KOC tried to turn him into a pocket passer. When he played ad lib was outstanding. Those 2 wins in the 23 season were great to watch. I'll forever love Josh Dobbs for those 2 games. But as bad as the end was, I love Sam Darnold for what he brought there. And the end of that game against the Packers where he ran into the locker room and they doused him and hoisted him up. Good for him, man. And he's going to get a nice contract out of that. Probably not here, which I'm cool with. But to me, that was my favorite moment of the season, man. You saw the love in that locker room. You saw the culture that the Wilfs, Queasy, and KOC are building, out there at TCO. And I love it. I'm excited about the offseason. I will be honest, I was not excited this past offseason going in this year. It's probably the lowest expectations I've had in years. But for me, Darnold's water shower there at the end of the Packer game was my favorite moment of the season. Gary, what was your favorite moment of the season?
Yeah, I don't know. I got to be honest, just because of deep down inside that Jets game over in London, I loved seeing him kick Rodgers' ass one more time. I mean, I just got an affinity to not like the guy, but it was just so enjoyable to me to see him fail against the Vikings one more time. And I mean, the season as a whole, there was so many good parts. But that was the one that I really loved, by the way. It was just fantastic for me.
Wow, watch out for Gary. He's a vindictive one.
Yeah, well.
Steve.
Oh man, this was, like I said, this season was a lot of fun. The defense with their takeaways, they had a takeaway in every game, I think, this season except the playoff game. The celebrations they came up with, that was a ton of fun. I love that. I loved how people reluctantly had to start talking about the Vikings, even though they wrote us off. Like the national media stuff is like, oh yeah, well the Vikings. And they're like, yeah, but Sam Darnold. But it's like they had to start talking about it. So that one, I always love when that happens because the national media doesn't like Minnesota. But I think for me, the single best moment, and there was a ton of them, especially when we were calling out bad MFers of the game. And this guy's my bad MFer of the season. There's a lot to choose from. Andrew Van Ginkel, game 17, spearing the living shit out of Jahmyr Gibbs, almost separated that man in half, and almost took one to the house in that same game. That out of that entire game, watching that whole thing, you saw that fight and that grit that was still there. That was my favorite moment because when you're watching your team struggle like that, but then you see that the players are still invested and still genuine. You talk about culture. That's a culture thing. He could have just dogged it, got burnt out of his shoes. Nobody would have said anything because the defense had been on the field for, almost 3 quarters straight, right? Couldn't find the end zone, any easier than a cow finds a barn door, apparently. But that moment for me, and Van Ginkel is the bad MFer of the season because, his interception returns, his ability to drop back in coverage, his film study. He looks like a freaking Viking. I mean, this guy gets my bad MFer of the season. There's a lot of good guys to choose from, too, with Grenard and, Cashman. We got Harry the Hitman, the ageless wonder back there pulling down his 36 interceptions. There was a lot to choose from, but that moment for me and for him as my season-long bad MFer Van Ginkel, he gets it because that was just we were dying at the moment watching this team that we'd loved for so long get a big game and just really just pooped on themselves. It wasn't anything the Lions really did in that game. We just kind of pooped on ourselves and we couldn't find, apparently Darnold forgot how to play quarterback, but yep, Van Ginkel spearing Jahmyr Gibbs. That was my favorite moment. I love that one. Okay, Noddy, go ahead. Dear God.
All right. I hate
your Christmas morning. Can I unwrap one present? Please, Father.
I hate to agree with you because you're my favorite person to disagree with, Mr. Steve. Let's just get that out there. But my favorite moment, and I hate to piggyback you, I hate it. My favorite moment of the year when I knew that we had the best defensive coordinator in the NFL was when the Gink, took Danny Jones to the house on that side. And then 2 games later, Gink scored again. And you know what? We're going to have, on behalf of the Apache Nation, I offer you this olive branch of peace, Mr. Steve. My bad MFer is Andrew Van Ginkel. And that is absolutely, his 2 touchdowns were everything to me. Michael.
All right. Hey, a lot of good moments, stuff that I not necessarily forgot, but I mean, there was something in almost every game or every other game. I think you guys mentioned the celebrations. I mean, when have you seen that? By the end of the season, the rest of the league was trying to mock them and doing a horrible job. But
Who cares?
Cam Bynum is a genius. I love Cam Bynum. Just the creativity he brought to that defense this year with those celebrations, and still, they have to spend time on that, but they still came out and performed on a weekly basis and kicked ass. And unless you're creating those turnovers, you can't perform those celebrations. So that was fun to see. I mean, I've been watching the Vikings for 40 plus years. This was maybe one of the top 5, probably a top 5 season for me, just because of the amount of fun, everything else, piss on the playoffs, piss on how we performed there. The season itself was great. And like I said, I'll definitely hold it dear. Next thing, and we touched on it a little bit, quarterback thoughts. Obviously, a few weeks ago, had we been having this conversation 3 or 4 weeks ago, the chatter was extend Sam Darnold, give him $30-40 million a year, lock him up for 3 or 4 years. And I'll be honest, I was probably on board with that at the time. I was definitely willing to listen to that. However, I believe that tone has definitely changed. I think Sam Darnold will secure himself a nice bucket in the off season. I'm sure somebody will sign him. I would say for at least similar to what Mayfield got 2 years ago. I mean, Sam's probably in line for a 3-year, $75 to $90 million deal from somebody, some quarterback hungry team. And the one good thing, it's probably not us. So I'm happy about that.
It's not us. I promise you.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty comfortable about that. But with that, we have a quarterback situation, not so much a situation. McCarthy's rehab, is it a concern? We'll see. I think a healthy McCarthy is definitely in line to start next season. There's also the question of Danny Dimes, who we picked up, and his market is probably pretty slim. Can we sign Danny Dimes to help guide JJ McCarthy and or be the backup and secure him at a price like we did with Sam Darnold? Geary, what are your thoughts on the quarterback situation?
That's exactly where my thought is on where this goes. I think you let Darnold walk. I mean, hell, there's a bunch of teams you're going to get looks from probably Tennessee, Cleveland, the Raiders. I mean, there's going to be quite a few people that are going to want interest in him. Are they going to want interest in a tune more than $25 million now? I don't think so. We can spout off all this $40 million garbage all day. What he did those last two games solidified to me in pressure points that there's a struggle there. There's still that old Sam Darnold seeing goals from the Jets. I hate to say that, but I'm telling you, the proof is in the pudding. You see it, it's there, it is there. So I'm fine with that. Let him go. You got Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes for $10 million, and he's getting paid still from the Giants. So we pay him a minimal salary of $10 million to be the backup in a situation. He's been through enough games. Hell, he lit us up in the playoffs himself.
I was there.
So we don't have to have a guy. He doesn't have to be the starter. JJ needs to get this job. JJ needs to come out and be the guy day one. You drafted him. It's time to use it, right? He had a whole year to sit there, look at film, go over all those team situations in the meeting rooms, all those things above. I just think you go with JJ, you ride Danny Dimes for $10 million. He wouldn't have come here this year if he didn't want to be in that building. He came here, he's seen what it's about, he knows what it's about. Keep him for that cheap price. Let's roll the dice.
Steve?
Yeah, it's an interesting conundrum. I do think that, I'm all in on J.J. McCarthy. I was in on J.J. McCarthy when, going into the draft. I liked him, honestly, him or Drake May. One of the two were those are the two that I was excited about coming out in the draft. So I was completely fine with J.J. McCarthy because he, Michigan ran a lot, but he was accurate and he read. I watched him. He was clinical against the Gophers. And I watched him and I'm like, oh, this kid can ball. So yeah, I think it's JJ's team. The one thing that concerns me though is that there is a lack of reps, right? So he's doing the VR, he's doing the mental stuff, but there is a lack of reps, right? And can we replicate that this off season to get, for, an entire season of sitting down and not, you got to talk about rust, but there's a learning program there. So that leads me to say, okay, how are we getting to JJ McCarthy, right? Is he going to be able to run it day one, or are they going to want to have, depending on how his maturation process is this summer, they may want Danny or Sam to, give us a couple games before they bring JJ in. Now, here's one thing that I'm thinking. If you're a team looking for a quarterback, are you going Darnold, who you just watched poop out in two big games, or are you going Dimes with having, Dimes isn't as old. He doesn't, Danny Dimes, he had problems in New York, but that can also be attributed to New York, right? So is somebody going to want to say, all right, do I want Darnold or do I want Dimes? Because Darnold, if you got a team that you're just going to use him as another bridge quarterback while you're bringing in somebody else, fine. But you already know that he's going to poop the bed in the big moments. We just saw it with the best quarterback whisperer out there. Unless you believe you have somebody better than KOC to be squawking into Sam Darnold's ear, who's going to get better out of him? That's a concern. And for Sam, does he really want to go leave right now and get that bag, or does he want to have an opportunity to try to show a couple more games? So I'm just saying, depending on how JJ's maturation goes, I don't look at it that Danny Dimes is staying. I don't look at it that he's going to be staying long term, not long term, but I don't look at that he's going to be here. We might just roll with Nick Mullins as the backup because for some reason KLC loved Hey,
You're out
Nick
of your
Mullins.
mind. You're out of your
I see
mind.
some. I see
You're out
some.
of your
Nick Mullins is fun. And
You're out of
besides,
your mind.
I'm not keeping him here. KOC's keeping him here. KOC could have dumped him last year too, and he didn't. He keeps him here. He knows what he's doing. I don't know why KOC does it, but he keeps
threw
him.
more interceptions than the goddamn guys throwing passes in the NFL. He's gone. He's
You
gone.
think they're going to let Nick Mullins walk?
Absolutely. He can walk with 2 sets of papers. He's gone. He is gone. You're telling me Danny Dimes had a choice to go to any club he could have went to. Any club he wanted to go to. He was a free agent at that point.
Fine, but he's still poop.
Who
It's
called
still
his
poop.
ass?
I'm looking
Who
at
called
3
him?
shit sandwiches, and I'm trying to find the one with the least amount of granola left in it. That's what I'm looking at, right?
Who called him? No one. No one. Which means nobody gave a shit about him but the Minnesota Vikings. So you're telling me there's a market for a guy who no one called?
I'm telling you right now, you've seen what Darnold does in the big moments, right? If you're taking a look at Danny Dimes or Sam Darnold just saw ghosts in the 2 biggest games of his career. 2 biggest games of his career with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison as your receivers, and he couldn't find him with a searchlight. You want to build your franchise or bridge?
Hold on all season and couldn't even fucking see. So I don't know where you're pulling this out. There's a market for Danny.
I'm saying that as you look at this, right? Let's be honest here. Let's take a look at it.
There's some financial ramifications in this.
Danny Dimes, it's also, if you're looking at their situations, okay, people are saying, oh, Darnold was a victim of, horseshit systems and bad coaches and bad this and that. And he went to San Francisco, and Kyle Shanahan and KOC, they were able to fix him. Danny Dimes is coming out of a horseshit system with a horseshit organization who gave up Saquon Barkley, no run game, this and that. Could we do the same thing with Danny Dimes? And he's younger and cheaper, right?
It's the
same narrative.
No,
nobody
Josh
wanted
Allen
Darnold.
was mentored under Dable. So if you're telling me he was the bullshit quarterback coach, then how did he get the job when he came from Buffalo from Josh Allen? That's not true.
Look at what the Giants did. The Giants are a laughing stock. The Giants suck. They're not a good organization right now. They're not a good organization. They're on Hard Knocks saying, boy, Saquon, and Saquon goes run for 2K, right? I mean, I don't trust the Giants. Who trusts the Giants? Nobody trusts the Giants.
You're telling me they're not a good organization?
All right, gentlemen.
They have multiple championships in the 2000s era, and you're telling me they're not a good organization.
That's like saying Red McCombs was a great, deserves credit for the 98, that he was a great owner, right?
Yeah. All right, gentlemen.
Red McCombs. How is this current regime doing? What's the last 5 years of the New York Giants? Last 5 years of the New York Giants. Don't talk to me about 20 years ago. We're not Packers fans. The last 5 years of the New York Giants, they've been dog shit. They've got 1 playoff game, and who was the quarterback? Danny Dimes.
All right, gentlemen, I'm going to pull rank. I love the banter. I love the content. Me and B Naughty are just sitting back letting you fucking guys roll. I love it. This is what we're here for, though. This is what we're here for.
2 more.
Yes, absolutely. We don't all have to agree. We just have to agree to disagree.
I agree.
All right.
I agree.
Appreciate it, gentlemen. I love that you're.
Hey, what about me, dude?
I'm coming to you.
I'm gonna follow that, Naughton. Come on.
God. Anyways, appreciate the banter. Appreciate your passion for the quarterback position for the Minnesota Vikings. Be naughty. I'm sure you have something to say.
On
top what these two just did. I'm all ears, brother.
I wish I had a brown paper bag just to hyperventilate in. Fuck. Well, I was a huge Sam Darnold guy about 3 games ago, 3 weeks ago. I mean, it was working. I think the huge problem was that Aaron Glenn saw something on tape and imploded that interior offensive line, and we didn't have Darisaw. I think that they found a weakness, and I was still trying to stay positive that we'll beat the Rams. We'll beat the Rams. But they just duplicated the situation. Sam is gone, and that's just what it is. We have $70 million plus in cap. We have a first-round draft pick. We got a late third-round draft pick, and we got 2 5s. And do you trust Queefy to do that? Enhance our team. So we got to look at where we're going here. This is obviously they're going with the rookie. And if you want to talk about a backup, Sam's going to get $20 to $40 million somewhere a year. Good luck with you, dude. Yeah, go somewhere else. And I was a huge Sam guy during it. I thought he understood the system, but obviously he doesn't. Sean Mullins, he might be back in play next year. Danny Dimes. Here's what I'm telling you about Danny Dimes. We get a late third round draft pick for fucking Kirk Cousins this year. And Queefy's boofed every draft he's been in. You don't think that he wants that third round draft pick if Danny Dimes done somewhere else? So I wouldn't marry myself to that. I would marry myself to JJ being the guy. They are glowing about him after his cleanup. The guy loves football. Guy's always here. This is his KOC's handpicked guy. I would guarantee that, and I would bet it in Vegas. Michael.
All right, so yeah, I think we're all across the board with the backup quarterback going into next year. I think we can all agree it will not be Sam Darnold. I'll be shocked if he, but there's some compensatory picks between him and Danny Dimes that come into play that'll be interesting because I believe we only have 4 or 5 draft picks.
And Queefy moves the draft every year. He needs all the picks he can get.
I can't argue against that. I will say this: it's days like these you miss old Trader Rick. Because Trader Rick stockpile drafts. He would make the drafts interesting for Vikings fans because we had draft capital up the ass. Anyways, moving right along, as I like to say. And we're going to talk free agency, draft needs, all that shit. But one thing I want to touch on, because I watched the post-game interview after the Rams game, a Vikings legend. And I don't know if he's going to be back. And based upon his interviews in the locker room is Harry Smith.
Doesn't look good.
And I'll be honest with you, I know a couple of us have talked if B-Flow comes back, which it's looking like there's a good probability of that. Is this Harrison Smith's last season? And obviously he won't go to another team. I think Harry and the Vikings have such a good relationship that I hope to God he never plays for another organization. He played at a high enough level this year where I believe he could come back and be productive. But if that's Harry's last game, and I hope it's not, but I understand if it is because he's 36 years old, he's long in the tooth,
he's a Hall of Famer.
Great career, Hall of Famer. Anybody that would argue that he does not belong in the Hall of Fame, I don't give a shit about first ballot, all that bullshit. Harrison Smith is a Hall of Famer. And anybody that wants to argue about it, I will sit there and debate man to man. Harrison Smith, what do you guys, Gary, I'll start with you, man. What does he mean and what has he meant to this organization?
Well, when you talked about, I heard Steve and Brian talk about this bad MFer. That's who I was going to pick as my bad MFer. A guy 12 years in the league and playing at the high level in which he still contains this year was fantastic. I think he's a fantastic player. I can't say one bad thing about him. We hit a home run taking him at safety. He's had a great career. The kind of guy who's a leader. You can't replace him. It's going to be tough. I mean, the Vikings got a lot of needs. Talking about going into the draft, you lose Harry. You need safety help. You need corner help at this point. You need interior linemen. Free agency's there. I get it. You're going to have some of that stuff to be fixed, but to replace Hitman, I don't know if that's that easy.
What are your guys' thoughts on whether or not he stays or he's gone, Gary?
He took a cut this year. I believe it was a little over $2 million a year. Could he take a cut again? Yeah, but at that point, it's up to him. I think really if he wants to stay. I don't think B-Flow. I thought he had a great year. So I don't know if B-Flow's like, you're not going to be here for my system. I would just say it's up to Harry, and I don't know if he wants to do it anymore.
Steve?
Yeah, I was watching some of Harry's offseason stuff last year, and that guy is committed to his body and his health. He built this contraption in his basement out of like 2x4s, and like the guy went to Menards and bought some just crap to like make this cable pulley system where his whole body's suspended to be able to keep everything moving and working. And um, yeah, I know. And then he was talking about, at the end of the season here, how well he fit into B-Flow's scheme, how this was a lot of fun. His body was able to stay healthy because he wasn't, the way B-Flow used him was in such a way that he didn't take a lot of, he didn't take a giant pounding this season and get banged up bad.
But him,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I think he might want to roll it one more time. Um, just to be able to make one more run with it. And I think he'd be doing it just because he wants to, right? Just because it's not so much for the pay. And, if they went to him and said, hey, we're going to restructure you because we want to re-sign Van Ginkel, I could see him saying, yeah, let's run it back one more time. We got the rookie and let's go. But yeah, Harrison Smith first, that guy should be first ballot Hall of Fame. There shouldn't be any questions about it. The only thing that would be a knock is that he doesn't have a title, but that's other than that, everything else he's done is ridiculous. I mean, speaking of the Giants, remember what he did to Eli how many times, right? Eli Manning, picked him off and took it to the house. I mean, indicative of who he is. So that very few people are as smart as Harrison Smith. Even Aaron Rodgers, he loved playing against Harry because Harry was so good at disguising and where he was going to be. So yeah, I think he'll probably run it back one more time because he wants to, especially with B-Flow stays. I think that'll be a big thing for Harry. If B-Flow stays, I think he will, because the system that B-Flow ran was really good for Harry and his body. So, yep, Hall of Famer. But I think if B-Flow stays, Harry stays at least one more year. Okay, Naughton.
All right. Thank you for the introduction, Mr. Steve.
I get confused. I'm confused. Are you trying to be an incognito? Are you witness protection?
No, I am. Well, here's the deal. I think we're getting B-Flow back. And where else is he going to go? He's not going to be a head coach. That's going to happen. But the one thing about Harry, dude, that locker room thing, dude, I love the Vikings. I love the fans. And he wouldn't look at the camera and he's crying. And that was tough. But B-Flow being back, I think the best bet is what he downsized his contract to 1 year, $7-8 million. Offer him that, and you got B-Flow back. There's a chance he comes back, but it sounded like he was done. Michael.
Yeah, that's the read I got just from how he welled up, and I forget the name of the reporter. She obviously knows.
Julia Daniels.
Yes, Julia Daniels. You know what I mean? It was very touching, man, and you just saw the emotion in Harry's eye, because I think at worst, it's a 50-50 proposition for him right now. He sat there in the locker room not knowing whether or not he's coming back, and it looked like he was leaning towards not coming back. And if he leaves, God bless him. I mean, are you going to argue with him? He's put his body through all that, had a great career, Hall of Fame career. But I did appreciate how at the end he said it was one of the best seasons he's ever had, the most fun he's had playing, which was awesome. So I think if I had to if I was a betting man, I'd say he might be back for one more year, but I would say it's probably only 1 year. I mean, he's put his body through a lot.
I wouldn't touch that bet, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, they'll put it on Prize Picks, and I'll get hosed out of it anyways. But let's move along now. We'll talk a little bit more about the offseason. Going into that, and I got a couple things I gave you guys for the agenda, but first let's talk about the extension that happened, I believe, yesterday with the head coach. KOC locked him up. You saw a lot of different media reports, and I think a lot of them were planted, whether his agent had anything to do with it or Mike Florio's just a dumbass, which is a
I think he's plugged in.
Yeah, him and
he's weaselish about it. You don't want to trust him.
No, he is. You can tell he pissed his buddy PA off, but also
Florio's plugged into a hookup pipe. I mean, come on, let's be honest. That guy
and Glazer threw some shit out there, so they created a lot of drama where it didn't need to be. But I will say this. Props to the Wilfs for locking this shit up and getting it out of the way right away. And I think the fan base, I mean, granted, he hasn't won a playoff game, but a 13 and a 14 win season, in his first 3 years, you see how the locker room responds. You see the culture in that building. Far different from when Coach Zim was there, who was a frickin' douchebag, let's be honest.
Hey,
Oh, whatever. Yeah, ask anybody outside of Deion Sanders that likes Mike Zimmer.
I do.
Fine. Okay, 2 fucking people in the world.
Yeah,
Anyways, and
There's
his
a Russian import bride that likes him now.
and his young wife that's future wife.
she's pretty hot. You got to admit.
Granddaughter. Yeah. Anyways, but besides that, so we talked a little bit about it earlier. My assumption is because of this success they've had and the free agency signings they made, especially this last offseason, whether or not that had to do with Beeflo or Kwesi, Brian. My assumption is Kwesi will get locked up for an extension.
Yeah.
So looks like the head coach, general manager, that stuff's all locked in. We're not losing coaches to other teams like the Lions, who will be exposed because, let's be honest, Dan Campbell's a fucking psycho. But anyways, it looks like we'll keep the core front office head coaching group intact, which is great to me because I like them. I think they've built something great here. Free agency needs. What are we looking at? And I think you guys touched on a little bit. Obviously, interior line, corners are a concern. If Harry leaves, safety's a concern. I think from a skill position point on the offense, man, we got great receivers. We got an upcoming quarterback, hopefully. Tight ends. Tight ends are great. O-line. Corners. What else? What are we looking at in free agency? And the beauty of it is, especially now that we got Kirk Cousins dead cap money out of the frickin' way, $72 million. What are we going to look for in free agency, which starts right after the Super Bowl? Gary.
I think obviously we hit the nail on the head with the guards/center combo. That's going to be a big point of emphasis, I think, and also the defensive line, the interior and the defensive line. We definitely still need a rock in that middle. So that's they tried to do that last year. They couldn't get that, so they did do patchwork by Patrick Jones and such in that middle. So you do need that run stopper. If you had a run stopper in that middle, do you know how much more you could use Cashman and how much better Cashman and Pace would be? Just because they'd be free off that block at that second level, i.e., that's how Ray Lewis made a living. And you can think, what's the name for that? It wasn't just Ray Lewis being a great linebacker. He had a hell of a 2 front D tackles that caused that. And so I think that's a big need. How long is Gilmore worth another run, right?
Yeah.
Is Shaq Griffin worth another run? I mean, these guys are patchwork deals. Byron Murphy will keep him, right? And that's obviously a big piece. But if you lose Hitman, now you're looking for 3 spots on that back end at least. And is Cam Bynum going to be re-signed? So you look at that and go, okay, we have some needs on that back end. So free agency's got to play a big piece. And unfortunately, they have to have just as equal of a good free agency as they had this year if they're going to be successful next year, because you're going to have plug-and-play pieces. The draft isn't going to cover all those needs. Hell, we need a running back.
Yep.
We need a young running back that's going to be able to play in the system. So there's a lot of needs there. I mean, it sounds easy. 72 million is not a lot when you're looking at all those places, but can you get a few rocks and then get some projects also, right? Because you do got to do your job and coach them up. So
well, and UDFAs too. I mean, we'll talk about the draft after we circle around about free agency, but think of Pace. Think of this team's history. And,
thank gosh for Beeflo.
Yes, well, and think about this team's history, man. Randall, Thielen, a lot of the UDFAs that we picked up. And I mean, granted, those are years past. They really don't know. They're not applicable to now, but Steve, what do you
Pace Jr.
Yeah. Pace is obviously. Steve, what do you think about free agency, our approach, the $72 million?
Boy, I was just looking up the list again because I couldn't remember them. We've got some big guys that we got to make decisions on. We need a running back, but Do you draft a running back and then hang on to Aaron Jones, Cam Akers, or do you let Cam Akers go and trade for him a third time because he's reliable backup? I don't know, but he's coming up here. Darnold, we already talked about. Cam Robinson, do we have to re-sign him? Because but we don't know but Darrison may or may not be 100% start of the season though, too, right? So do you try to float something with him because you can't afford, especially if we go over. Reisner, I think he's a backup. I don't think he's the answer, right? I think we're all agreed there. Jones, we talked about. Harry the Hitman's a free agent. Here's some big ones that we can talk about. Byron Murphy Jr. and Cam Bynum. Those two guys are both free agents. Pat Jones, do we hang on to him? We probably can. I don't think there's a giant market for him. I think we can keep him. But, Byron Murphy Jr. and Cam Bynum, man, if we lose that's not just performance on the field. That's a big part of your defensive culture. Like we talked about the culture of the team. I don't know how you get away from not paying those guys. The only way I could say that you get away from that is if somehow you can pry Antoine Winfield Jr. out of Tampa with our first round pick or something because he signed a new contract down there. But otherwise, I don't know why when you've got guys that can work in our system the way that they do, I don't know. I mean, you need better corners, but I don't know that you'd want to be getting rid of those guys. So, and then the one thing that we haven't talked about, the Gink. Free agent. This guy was almost. He could have been DPOY if he houses that one against the Lions. I mean, we locked up Cashman and Grenard with contracts, right? Multi-year contracts, but Gink just came in on a 1-year deal.
2-year
so we
deal,
got
$20 million. He's signed for $10 million next year.
Yeah, but he's. Let me tell you something. Are you going to let him go into his last year? After a season like this,
operation.
You got to see what you have first. I think.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. He signed through the season, so I get.
You also have Dallas Turner that you've got to make sure this kid works out.
And I think he will. I mean, Dallas Turner didn't get the rest because of some of the performance of our free agents.
Yeah, it's hard when you've got Van Ginkel on one side and Grenard on the other, and they're both fighting to be NFL sack leaders. I mean, that's going to make it hard. And then you got Cashman in the middle. I don't know. He's splitting snaps, and I don't take anything away from Turner on that. I'm like, dude, you're behind two studs. Maybe on a little bit more of a garbage team, he gets more run, but you're against two guys who are showing out week after week. So
we'll see that cap number is going to move because if I'm not mistaken, Ingram is like a $3 million cap hit if he's there by whatever date there. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, $3 million.
Cleavy won't let him go. He'll try to be right.
Okay, well, no, Ingram can take a flying fucking leap. Anyways, there's some more cap space they can free up, so we'll see.
Ed Ingram's the worst fucking guard ever.
I don't know. I've seen some.
He
bad.
All right, he's up there. But Steve, let's let Steve finish off on the free agency.
Yeah, no, that's it. My big thing is on the mainly on the defensive side. I think you got to re-sign Aaron Jones and figure out what your running back of the future is going to be. Aaron Jones will be happy to stay. He had his best rushing season of his career. But on the defensive side, I think you've got to look at who you're going to re-sign, and then we've always talked about it for I feel like a decade now with this team. Interior offensive line, interior defensive line. We got to do something. Either you get some studs in the draft, or you go out in free agency and buy some guys. But it's going to be interesting to see that approach because you've got these big dudes on the defensive side of the ball that you got to take care of too. So I don't know. Nadi, go ahead.
All right, I'm just on pins and needles. I'm on the edge of my seat, Mr. Steve, with your amazing analysis.
Isn't it though? It's like radiating from me. Yeah.
I hate agreeing with you on shit because you're usually the guy that I go after. But the big thing is I listened because I'm a guy that listens to K-Fan and listens to Common Man Show. And that's where KOC...
and that's where you went wrong.
Yeah, no shit.
Well, that's where KOC's outro news conference was. And first thing that he said is our interior line is atrocious. We have to address that aggressively. That's exactly what he said. And, just like I said a little bit earlier, Bradbury, number 18 overall pick out of NC State,
Former tight end who
I
had
don't
never
need to hear
played center.
Big D. I'm talking. By the way, he said that our interior line has to be addressed, and that's got to be the first thing that has to be addressed. And the Trey Smith, the guy from Tennessee Volunteers, that's a free agent with Kansas City, he's a monster, and he's going to demand 20 mil a year. And then Mekhi Becton, I loved having him, like a 6'8", 350-pound guy. I love having a guy like that. That's what's got to be addressed. I'm not too worried about the defensive side of the ball. And do you want to know why, Big G? Because we got
Yeah,
B-Flow.
I do. Yes, I do.
We got B-Flow. He's going to pick up the slack.
How many snaps has
Michael,
he taken in the NFL?
I'm done with you.
How many is he?
Michael.
How many does he take this year? He took 0 snaps.
All right. So evidently, and I learned this, and I haven't listened to that shit in 20 years. So when Dan Cole still does those press conferences, does he put in the old Barbara Walters, Marv Albert clip of where he
is wearing women's
Does
underwear?
he still put that shit in there? Because you and I had this conversation earlier, man. At some fucking juncture, you got to get new material. But anyway, why don't listen?
You could do a year-long calendar and almost to the day know what bit that Common and Barrero are going to do. Every year it's the same shit.
Yeah.
By the way.
Okay. That's why. Yeah. Anyways, don't get me started. Anyhow.
Wow. Someone struck a nerve with you on that, huh?
Oh, I fucking listened to that shit in 20 years. Anyways, fresh material. That's what I'm about here on Man Cave Sports. Something, a fucking new perspective for a change. Because, I didn't even know Shooter was still living until a couple weeks ago. But anyhow, last but not least, moving right along. Draft. Let's talk about the draft needs. I think we talked a little bit about it. And here's the thing, as we're closing the show here, and this is our last agenda item, we will get together before the draft. In fact, this group here, we'll get together after free agency has dwindled down and all the big moves have been made. There'll be some secondary shit that happens. But you guys know, post Super Bowl, man, that first few weeks when free agency hits, man, the moves, the big money moves are made usually in the first couple of weeks, and then boom, it dies down. You get the secondary stuff. So we'll definitely get together and discuss free agency. But the draft, obviously, we've talked about the Vikings. I only have like 4 or 5 picks as of right now. There's some compensatory stuff that are coming in. Kwesi has definitely operated differently than Spielman. Spielman used to stockpile picks. Kwesi right now, I mean, we're still after 3 years trying to figure out what the hell he's doing in the draft. Let's be honest.
Lock him in the bathroom.
Yeah. And here's an interesting caveat. As we learned with the KOC extension, KOC has a little more power in some of these areas, according to some of the reports from the Peliceros and the people that follow the Vikings, Seifert, etc. So very much like Denny Green, unfortunately, and that didn't go so well. But nonetheless, any draft needs, or, like I said, we got a limited number of picks. What are you guys looking for going into the draft, Gary?
Man, if we could pick anything we wanted, I really this is my home run would be Ashton Genty. Honestly,
wow.
a rock like that, a 10-year back. If I could get a guy like that in this offense, I'd take it all damn day.
He's a top 7 pick, though.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I've seen shit about sliding, just like many of the Vikings, like the Jeffersons and buses that slid in the 20s.
That's not going to happen. That guy's a monster.
I know he's like I said, he's my unicorn. That's the guy I think that would fit best in his system. You talk about a Marshawn Lynch / pounder running guy. I think he's a great back. And if the Vikes had that piece, man, you talk about nice weapons outside. You got a great tight end.
I would be drinking with you, sir.
And I tell you what, I ain't gonna lie to you. I know we don't have a chance at him, but Travis Hunter, God, what a two-way player. How fun would that be? I don't see that happening because we don't need
He's
that
going
need
to be an
on
average
offense.
wide receiver and an average cornerback in
Sure,
the
but
NFL.
I'd take that, right? I mean, I'd take a average guy like that who can play both ways. But just a fun piece. But I think Genty's who I'd really want to have. But
And I know we'll go to Steve. Steve, I know you and your son would agree. I know you guys are big fans of him.
Oh yeah, Austin Gent, yeah, definitely. We're big fans of him. A couple things though that we got to remember with our friend Quasi there.
Queasy.
He did bring us Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, KOC. You saw it on the fucking draft cam. First year starter. He was begging. Come on, man. That was a KOC pick.
There's no way. There's no way to verify that. There's no way to verify that.
You saw it live.
No. Anyways, I'm just saying that Tricky Rick Spielman, the guy who brought us Christian Ponder. Oh, that was a beauty too. Oh, Wormburner McNabb, Josh Freeman. Yeah, those are some great Rick Spielman moves. Let's replay some of those hits, shall we? Yeah, no, it's not all nostalgia back for those days. So I'm not you're gonna hit on some, you're gonna miss on some. It's I think that I would like to see us get a running back, definitely somebody that's a little bit younger. Ashton Janty, I would love it, but I'd like to see us get a running back, and then corners are a little bit tricky, drafting them because some guys just show out like crazy in college, and then you get them in the NFL and they're nothing. Corners and receivers sometimes can be a little bit deceiving. I mean, you look at former Gophers, right? Daniel Jackson versus Johnson and Bateman. Who's had it? Johnson was the number one Gophers wide receiver and it wasn't close. Bateman was the number two. Who's balling out on Sundays now? Bateman, right? So you got a little bit of that going on. So, I take some of it with a grain of salt, but I think running back would be something that we definitely should address in this draft. And then since we don't have many pieces, if you're going to go after look at somebody who did sign a contract that that's a better deal than say what with upcoming free agent contracts. When you're looking at offensive linemen, when you're looking at interior defensive linemen, you take a look at what the cost would be to go out and get somebody on the open market versus giving a draft pick or two, putting a package together to get somebody that signed maybe a year or two ago, who's got 2 years left on their deal. That I could see that definitely being a thing that we would do as well to try and to save a little bit of cap space. Pick up somebody interior offensive line or defensive line. Somebody's got a proven track record that what they can and can't do. I could definitely see the Vikings do something like that. We just don't have a lot of draft picks, so I'm not I'm not looking at a lot of magic on draft day because outside of a trade because there's not that many there to do a lot with. So I don't know. Not in your thoughts.
My thoughts are that. First off, we lock him in his posh and Tony corner bathroom and with the slot to feed him. And we have
It's not the same place that it's not Denny Green's old bunker. Remember when Denny Green was in
No, this is the TCO. This is in Egan. We lock him in there and we have like a lookalike that's in the room. And I think that there's really only one answer. We're trading out of that 26 pick. And we're going to pick up a 2 and a 3 or a 2 and a 4. And the absolute focus has to be on a D tackle second, but interior offensive line. And we got what? We got a 1. We got a late 3 from Kirko. We got 2 5s. The 2 5s, you guys fucking hold your horses on the running backs, dude. We're going to get one there. But we got to lock him in the bathroom first, Michael.
I love it. We'll see what happens with the draft. Like I said, there's still some compensatory stuff taking place depending upon what happens before then. Correct, as far as dying.
No, it's done.
What's that?
I think it's done, dude. We get a late third for Kirko. So anything that Danny
So any
leaves,
compensatory would be the next draft. Okay.
yeah, Danny would be next year.
I will say this: I'm not the draft. It's not my forte. I do a lot of football things, obviously, but I am not a draft nerd. I know you are. I know you are. But I still love you nonetheless, Brian.
Always
All
here
right.
for you.
With that, for the draft, I'm just hoping we can get a couple of picks that can make an impact right away. If it's only 4 or 5 picks, let's see 2 or 3 impact players, which is something that Kwesi has not delivered us so far. But the stranger shit has happened.
But we got B-Flow, so we're gonna get free agents.
Oh my God! All right, I honestly, if B-Flow leaves, we will have to throw a cheer up party for Brian there because
no.
Put him on
that is
suicide.
his
Let's be
favorite
honest.
human being in the world.
I will.
If people leaves, we're gonna have to put Naughton on suicide watch. We're gonna have to strap him in your basement there, and we're gonna have to take turns.
Brian, I think you definitely need a B-Flow tattoo.
Yes.
I don't care where, you just need one.
Well, I'm the only jackass out of you guys that don't have a piercing or a tattoo, so that won't happen.
I have no piercings or tattoos.
And that's why I love you.
Yeah. Gary?
You guys are pussies. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, with that, this will wrap up our all right. Good to
Brian,
see
locked it off again.
Hey, this will extend our Vikings coverage for the 2024 season. Thank you to all of you who will watch this. I mean, we went for quite a while, which was good. We recapped everything. I think the show went very well. It was great to get you on board here towards the end of the season, Gary. Great contributions. And we'll definitely be adding you to the Man Cave slate as we did earlier with the hockey coverage. But just want to say this to you guys, including Brian, wherever the hell he went. But appreciate all the Man Cave personalities for all the coverage we did on the Viking season. I want to thank anybody that's watched us, all 50 of you or whoever has watched any of our coverage. And we're going to pick that up nonetheless, as we are. We're in our infancy, but been a great season. Had a great time doing this. We will get back together, this group here. We'll discuss some free agency. We'll get together for the draft and then some preseason stuff, etc. But this wraps up the 2024 season. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody that watched. And we will be back. Skol.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Hi, guys.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it, guys.
Good night.